Yeah, sit down.
Yeah, go ahead.
We'll say bad things.
Don't get me in trouble.
Jody said,
The way I figure, you're the first one to get shot if you're there, so.
That's right. That's how I make the seating of the. I'm safe. I got time to get on the table.
And jump up, go through the auditor's office and hide. Hi.
"Hi, Sandy."
Hey, Mike.
What's new,
Are
Ann?
ya?
Good?
Nope.
Oh, come on, there's always something good.
Well, yeah, we're not getting wet.
Oh,
We're inside.
I'll tell you what.
Got any water
This
in
is
the
some
field?
serious rain.
What?
This is some serious rain.
6 inches?
Or
Last week.
afternoon, evening. I said morning first, then,
Yeah, that's what we're all used to.
yeah.
Well,
Good to
how
see
are
you.
ya?
Good, you?
Good.
We've won 6 inches since last week.
I figured 3 or 4 or 6.
What's up?
On a ground that's already saturated. And is there any frost anywhere in the ground anymore, or is it all gone?
Procedure for tonight,
Is it gone?
is there
It's
5
gone.
Is it gone?
per individual for a total of 15 minutes then? to
Yeah, I was
speak?
just wondering maybe if some could be there
That's
keeping
what
it from
that's the
absorbing,
way
you
I read
know?
it. Some people
It's
thought
just
maybe it was
saturated,
a
isn't
total-
it?
A total of 5 minutes, period.
Oh, no,
is,
no.
All right. And if
Last week.
everybody doesn't use the 3 or the full 5
There he
minutes,
is.
will any additional.
I think it's
allowed
it's
to
10 miles apart can make a big difference.
15 minutes?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. No.
Limited specifically to 3. So if 3
Yeah,
people-
and it's going to be cut off
Will
in
the
5
weed be
minutes,
okay?
maybe. No more than
That's
5
winter
minutes
heat,
here.
right?
Anybody runs over, we got a lot on the plate tonight, and so we got to
You
just
plant that in the
stick
fall
to
and
the
it stays
schedule.
dormant in the winter and then comes up in the
Yeah.
spring, right?
Okay. You bet.
Yeah, you get any erosion out of that or anything?
I
Is
sent
it-
you an email. Are you on your way?
Okay,
I thought maybe,
okay.
I thought maybe we'd have to come escort you in.
A lot
if
of
it was-
water.
Never
No, you
fails,
didn't
right,
get as much
Andrew?
as we did in Fort Myers.
Never fails,
We
right?
got
When
12 foot
updates right.
in one day. Hurricane a few months back. The water was actually, I always laugh at that stuff when the meteorologists say, oh, there could be 15-foot surge. I'm like, yeah, you're just scaring people. 21 foot hit the beach. 21 foot wall of water wiped out. I mean, it was like a bomb. The Florida, the Tampa Bay
Remind
was
us.
empty. You could walk across Tampa Bay. It's 20 foot deep there. You could walk across it for 3 hours. The wind pushed all of it out, circled it around Fort Myers, and dumped it on Fort Myers. You talk about some serious power in the wind. 152 mile an hour winds for over 12 hours straight.
All right, that's good. She's on top of that. Is
It
good.
was awful.
I'm here in a spectator role.
Okay.
Supporting. Chris is coming. Yeah. Chris is coming.
Sales stickers, some things like that, because the council, I'm sure, will ask those questions anyway.
You can give or take 15 seconds.
Well, I'm not picking on anyone.
You talking this Andrew or that Andrew? Foster. Okay. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah. False leads. Yes, that would be fine. No, please do, because I think he's a good guy. I think he has good programs, but I think you have a better pulse of, like you said, accountability. Define the program. Yeah, I'd like to hear that. Yeah. Anything you think's correct there, please do.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I'm not pro or against him either way.
I
I've seen some good work out of him, but I haven't really dug deep with him.
Okay, everyone, we are on the clock, so I will open this meeting of the DeKalb County Commissioners, and the date is February 27th, 2023.
Bill, I can barely hear you. Can anyone else hear All right. Jack, we seem to have a volume problem here. Is there, hear me at all or pretty quiet? Quiet. Is there a master volume?
I could barely hear Bill at all.
Really?
Do we need a JBL amplifier and subwoofer and,
2,000 watt kicker.
yeah, a kicker? Yeah, I couldn't hear you, Bill.
Really?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I know.
Well,
Oh, you got help though.
Yeah, you've got electronic ears.
I got bionic ears.
How about now? Can you hear any better?
No?
No, seems quiet to me.
Yeah.
I hear a little bit of amplification, but usually I can hear them speakers.
Can you? Yeah.
So it's working out in the lobby or rotunda, but not here.
Oh,
Fancy word, rotunda.
hope that's not pulling our volume.
Huh?
I hope that's not pulling away from our volume.
Oh,
Is that possible?
maybe that's a 4-ohm system. This is an 8-ohm system, or you gotta love technology.
Good thing you didn't let him go home.
Should have cranked it up early.
Susan says she can hear everyone.
How about now? Little better? Well, let's just speak extra loud, I guess.
Right, I'll tune it
Talk
up.
right into the mic.
I'll dial it up a little bit.
All right.
How about that?
Then it won't run on your stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Testing.
Yeah, just be cognizant to speak right into the mic,
Yeah.
especially important meetings. So.
The one bad thing about being hard of hearing, it's hard to judge my own volume.
Yeah.
And so I tend to fade off, and fade in. But I'll do better, and so everybody can hear. Anyway, we are in session, a little bit late, but that's okay. We'll catch up. And insurance trustees, you are up and on board, and what you got for us? What's your name and
Pardon me.
your name?
I am Mike Shurik. I want to thank you for the opportunity to come. This is the largest crowd we've ever had to hear about our insurance renewal, so we're grateful that everybody decided to join us tonight to hear the good news that we have regarding your insurance renewal. So
You can throw in a little marketing there too.
Yeah. Make the check out to DeKalb County.
you guys are our best promoters, so we're grateful for that. So don't want to take a lot of your time because I know you have a full agenda and have a lot going on tonight, but it is time for your commercial property casualty insurance to renew. I know we've had several meetings on the front end of this to discuss the options and what the difficulties that we have in our marketplace right now. I think we've communicated in the past that we were concerned that the commercial property casualty market, especially in the county insurance arena, is up typically anywhere from 10 to 15%, some are as high as 20% because of some of the difficulties that they're having. Now, the good news is that didn't happen for you. So we're grateful for that. I think you guys have a copy of our proposal. We can go over it as much as you'd like, or as little as you'd like tonight, because again, I understand you have a full agenda. The good news from our perspective is your renewal went up about 3.8%, which again, compared to the rest of the market trends, that's significantly better. So we're very happy to be able to deliver that. So with that said, I can turn it over to Kyle and he can answer any questions you may have or go over this renewal in the detail that you may like.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Kyle Pearson, insurance trustee as well. Thanks for having us. Well, Mike stole the thunder there. We do have some good news on the renewal this year, especially in relation to the marketplace and what we're seeing. We had a really favorable renewal. A lot of that's what you guys are doing. And we've had some good years here back to back. Some other items that you guys are doing really well is the safety committee that we've kind of revived there. Dottie's leading the charge on that and doing a phenomenal job of getting everybody on board. And the communication level there is really high and really effective. So we've been able to communicate that back to the underwriters as well. Give you guys a couple gold stars on that, and that really played well. The other thing that comes up with this package is your guys' cyber renewal. I know we've had a lot of conversation on that here in the past handful of months, and the Jack's team and what you guys have done on the loss control side and the things you guys have implemented for that cyber application to answer all the questions the right way and have your guys' methods done the right way has really let us have a really favorable cyber renewal as well. Mike mentioned, 10 to 20% on the county property and casualty. We're seeing that and then some on cyber. You guys were not, once again, a part of that. I think it was roughly a 5% increase in the cyber for you guys. And that was due to just the loss control and the measures you guys have put in place is really strong. So I know we sent this to you guys last week ahead of time. Happy to go, like Mike says, in depth as you guys would like tonight or hit the highlights. How would you guys prefer to move forward with it, and how can I present to you guys?
I think really the highlights.
Okay.
Will work. I've read through pretty much most of that.
Okay, that's good. We are recommending Liberty Mutual again this year. So it's the same carriers last year. So the forms and the coverages are going to remain. We're going to have continuity there from year to year. We're not introducing a new carrier where there's a lot of back and forth, which is going to be helpful for that. All right. The first page on it's the property. We did increase property building limits by 5% with inflation. Is that enough? I don't know. Likely not, but it's something. And that's where we had a good conversation with Liberty and felt comfortable increasing that. The property line of coverage went down actually roughly 1%, and that included the 5% increase in the building limits. So we got a really favorable property renewal this year. We do have the statement of values there on the second and third page. We'll want to get this signed from you guys and get it in our file and get it back to Liberty Mutual in a timely manner. I know last year we cleaned up a couple items on the statement of values and we went through that. If we could do that again this year, if you guys could do that for us and just make sure everything's buttoned up. I know there's a couple discrepancies. And we did have, obviously, that 306 Ensley added there. There's no building coverage like we talked about, but we do have the content coverage there for you guys listed accordingly. Any questions on the property coverage in general?
No questions.
Okay. All right. The next couple pages are the same property extensions that Liberty had from last year. I won't read through those line by line, but you can see those. It's the exact same form that we used from last year. One thing to note is we did increase the demolition costs, increased construction, also known as ordinance and law coverage. So if there is a property loss here and they come in to redo the work or rebuild, this would be for any ordinance or laws since this place was built as additional funds on top of the building limit to make sure that we have adequate limits there when you guys need to rebuild the property. Okay. Inland marine coverage, that is page 7 there. You can see we kind of broke it down. The top line is just over 3.5 million in coverage. Then there's separate buckets below that add up to that 3.5 in coverage. A couple nice things Liberty does for us is any newly acquired mobile equipment, this would be like tractors, anything larger equipment, there's automatically 250 grand of coverage. So if a department head buys something and it doesn't make it back to us quickly enough, there's automatically coverage up to that number. Now, if it's an item that's well north of that in values, we need to know that and want to have it on the policy. But it's a nice bonus there that they're extending to you guys. They also have miscellaneous unscheduled equipment. So anything that you guys would own that leaves site here that's going places, $100,000 for any one item is another nice perk that they added this year for us. Okay. Everything else remains the same. Those next few pages are the various lists that everything's based off of. We have worked with Sue Sleeper on those. I know Susan in our office has gone back and forth to get those updated. Once again, if those can be something we can get eyes on just to make sure we're all on the same page, that'd be great. Something we can do after the fact. Crime coverage, We have $75,000 worth of coverage. This is the exact same form and coverage that we had in years past. No changes there. General liability. There's a lot going on this page here. We have $1 million per occurrence, $2 million aggregate. Once again, your umbrella sits on top of this, so we're gonna have $6 million for any one occurrence. Okay. Below that, you have your public officials liability at $1 million, employee benefits liability at $1 million, law enforcement liability at $1 million. Those are all at $1 million because the umbrella sits on top of them, like I just said. The one that's different is the public officials employment practices liability. That's the wrongful hiring, firing, discrimination, harassment type claim. That is at $5 million because the umbrella doesn't sit over the top of it. So we have that elevated for you guys. Okay. Coverage is included here for central dispatch. It's also included here for the county home and the medical distribution as well, which is a big thing as we go through this, as you guys know. Okay. Any questions on that?
Todd, Mike?
Okay. Once again, if any of these items you want to dive into after the fact, we can always circle back with you guys and have a meeting to talk with it. Happy to do it anytime.
Liberty Mutual, you recommend, but you're recommending them because they're the only ones that quoted, correct?
That one item right there in the medical, in the distribution of meds is a deal breaker for a lot of the carriers.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
I know that's something moving forward, we can have more conversation on what might make better sense for the carrier side and if it makes sense for what you guys want to do moving
Gotcha.
forward.
Thank you.
Yep. The autos, $1 million worth of coverage. Once again, the umbrella sits on top of this. So $6 million worth of coverage for any one occurrence there. This is based on 101 vehicles or trailers. I believe it was 95 last year. So that limit or that number has gone up a little bit, which is new vehicles that are added to the policy. That list of vehicles, go ahead.
Does that include trucks, highway trucks?
It does. Yep.
It does?
Yep.
Okay.
Any autos that are owned by the county, then any trailers as well. Yeah. And that list, I believe, was previously sent from Susan in our office to be checked. I'll confirm that with her again, though. And once again, if you guys can get your eyes on that list to make sure if there's anything that doesn't need to be on there, we can get it taken off. Okay. Next page is the excess liability or the umbrella, as I was calling it earlier. It just shows which coverages it sits over the top of and which ones it doesn't. It does sit over the general liability, the auto liability, employee benefits, sexual misconduct, public officials, law enforcement, and employer's liability. It does not sit over uninsured motorist, cyber liability, the school leaders E&O, and then the employment practices as well, which was that $5 million limit that we had increased previously. Okay. Next page, next couple pages are your cyber quote. What I can tell you is in the cyber market right now, we are seeing premiums go up. There are a lot of cyber claims. There's no surprise to anybody. Hackers and people doing mischievous things right now is going on a lot, and it's only getting worse. Like I said, the good news is Jack and his team and everything that you guys have done to support them has allowed us for a really positive renewal, not only on the rate side, but the other thing we're seeing right now is the deductible retention rates. If a carrier's not thrilled about what you guys have as far as loss control in place, they'll either limit capacity, they'll raise premiums, or they'll jack up your deductible to a lot higher rate. Your guys' deductible remained at $25,000, which is really fair and easier for you guys to stomach than maybe a $100,000 or $250,000 deductible at time of claim. So the work they did is really paying dividends. So that's great. School Leaders E&O page. This is with the Change Academy is why we have this coverage there. We have $2 million worth of coverage. You can see there the policy form is below. I won't read that to you. This is the exact same coverage that we had in the prior years. And also it's one Liberty's really comfortable with, which is great. So it's baked into their form versus having to farm it out to another carrier. Okay. Last page there is the premium page. You see there's about a 3.7% increase year over year, which I know is an increase, but from what we're seeing in the marketplace is really a favorable renewal. We're really excited to show that to you guys. We were at about 385 in prior year and just under 400,000 at the renewal time. Below the pricing page or below the pricing grid there, you can see we tried to go to about every carrier under the sun and no stones were left unturned. We talked about some of those difficulties with the county home and some things. Those are the reasons why we're having some trouble there. once again, we'll revisit that moving forward. And if we have some more players that can help us, we'll definitely entertain it moving forward. But all things considered, that's where things landed with Liberty Mutual, and they were able to really work with us to, get the cost where we felt was good.
Okay. Questions, comments?
We have coverage bound on the builder's risk policy.
So that is the next thing here. Builder's risk, we have the quote, which we had sent you.
Right.
It can be bound today. We just need the green light from you guys to bind it. So once we have the go-ahead, we're good to go. Yeah, are we ready to move forward on that, or should?
I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be,
Okay.
we're going to be,
That's not carried by FCI for us, correct?
we took it out of the.
We took it out of that.
out.
We yanked that,
Yeah,
didn't we?
Yeah, because,
Correct.
so we didn't have to pay their
Yeah, they're
fee,
elevated.
their fee bump, yeah.
I think we better move forward with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have any skin in the game yet, but we will shortly.
Yeah.
We hope.
Oh,
And the way
think we're
Selective
good.
writes that for you guys, if it doesn't go the full policy year, they'll actually prorate some of that premium back.
Yeah.
So we can go ahead and get it now, and then once it's done, you guys let us know once that job is done, and we can get then the policy terminated and then figure out where the premium lies at that time. Okay?
That's good.
All right.
Right.
I know I went pretty fast through it, but thanks for your time. Like Mike said, and like I said, if we can answer any questions after the fact, you guys know where to find us. We're happy to help however we can. So
Great.
thanks again for your business. We really appreciate it.
thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the insurance trustees.
I'd make a motion to approve the proposal as presented, including the builder risk policy.
I will second that.
A motion and a second on the floor. Are there any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. We are set for another year.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep. Take care.
Okay. All right. Let's jump over into minutes. We got a little time before Andy comes.
I'll move to approve minutes.
Second.
Any comments? I do have one on the first paragraph, and I think it was not on you, Jody. I think I said this wrong about the commissioners paying for the stone out of lighted. It's actually being paid out of the highway funds that we provide through lighted. Yes. Yeah.
I'll move to approve as amended then.
Okay.
I'll second that.
A motion is second. Comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Okay.
Magic signature I did there.
One long arm you got there.
You bet. Claims.
I reviewed them. I'd make a motion to approve the claims.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve claims. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Okay, on to travel. We had several,
Whole bunch.
yes. Everybody get a chance to review the travel?
More to check. Oh, two more to check.
Just a moment. I didn't get the last two for some reason. Now they've populated. Let's see, it was then Parker for a zero amount. I like those.
Yes.
and Angela Sorg, Farm Service Agency for 116. Those were the only two I didn't review for some reason.
It was mileage only.
Yes. I'd make a motion to approve travel as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve travel. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Travel is approved. Okay. Homeland Security year-end report. You get a chance to look through that?
Yep.
Any comments or concerns?
Revenue of 41,000. I'd move to accept the report, acknowledge acceptance of the report.
And I will second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, same. Motion carries. Okay, independent contract agreement with the DeKalb County Coroner's Office. Any questions, concerns, complaints?
Andrew, did you review that contract? Are you good with it?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
I'll move to approve it.
I will second that.
Motion and a second. Additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. Motion carries. We all three get the sign. Only mine. Every one of them?
Yes,
Can I finish later?
if you want to. Sign up for a mortgage.
I think we'll do that as, did you get a chance to review that? The ARPA
ARPA award
funds?
to the fire departments?
Yes, it's
Yeah. 75,000.
75,000 each, and there's 10 different departments,
Yep.
volunteer fire departments throughout the county. I have a list here somewhere.
Yes, and we agreed to this previously
Right.
Been approved and appropriated.
and appropriated.
Formality of signatures.
I will move that for the president to sign the agreement.
And I will second.
A motion and second. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, opposed, same.
Get out your stamp for that
Motion
one.
carries. Yes, I'll sign the first one and maybe it'll go clear through.
There you are. Isn't it like the military press hard, 3 copies, you know?
Finish that up.
Mimeograph.
Right.
Carbon, what's carbon, huh?
Hey, we're just buzzing along here. We're down to miscellaneous topics.
More agreements that need done,
What you got?
if you have time.
Yeah, we got. I'm getting tired of this. Though.
This is a vehicle title. And a total loss in an accident. Signature so they can send.
Need a motion on that?
Yes.
I'd make a motion, we have the president sign the title for the 2018 trashed police car.
Second.
Okay, motion and second.
Call OmniSource.
Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. I will sign.
Do that after as well.
Okay. What you got now?
This is for
Oh, purchase agreement for the DART vehicles. I think there's two.
He presented that to us last time.
Right.
Yep, which we approved.
Total cost of the two is $138,870.40.
Motion to approve, you to sign, Bill.
And second?
A motion and a second. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed to the same. Motion carries. Okay. What else you got, Jody?
okay. The agreements there.
And Andrew, you were okay with those agreements, correct?
I believe I was, yes.
I'll move to approve the 3 GPS agreements for community corrections.
And I will second that.
All right, motion and a second on the floor. Are there any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. Motion carries.
More I lied.
One more.
We're out of money.
Where did you learn that?
I think she's listening, is who I learned that from.
Is she listening?
Susan got an earpiece in there telling you?
No.
Not quite, huh?
What's the next one?
The next one is for an agreement for the American Rescue Plan of 2021. This is a coronavirus state and local. That was not part of your initial email. That came in late, and Susan just provided it. So
I'm not sure I saw that. Did you read that, Andrew?
What? is
Town of
something-
Waterloo Sewer Project, the 200,000
Oh.
ARPA funds.
Yeah.
Oh,
ARPA.
okay. Yeah, that was approved and appropriated also.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did agree to that.
yeah. That was
Yeah.
part of that engineering for that multi-million-dollar sewer project.
12 million, wasn't it, or
Yeah.
16, or
Yeah, 16. I think.
16 million? Yeah, we provided
Started out at
200,000 out of ARPA to help City of Waterloo, right?
Right.
Or Town of Waterloo, yeah.
Just need a motion for the, for me to sign.
So moved.
And a second.
A motion and a second. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. Motion carries. Okay. Is that all you had?
Right on time.
Good job, Jody.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You bet. Okay, Andy, is Andy Foster in the house?
Andy Foster, calling Andy Foster. Here he comes.
We got a delayed.
Are you wired?
People here tonight. Andy Foster, here, resident in Auburn. Accompanied by Board Chair of Inspiration, Don Harvey. Thanks for the time tonight. Won't take up a lot of time. I do have some. Does anybody need this? I think I've emailed it previously. Does anybody need another copy of it?
Please.
I have. I'll take an extra if you have it.
A little edited, but similar information.
Mm-hmm.
So as you guys are aware, the federal government sued some of the drug distributors. The result of that was billions of dollars into the federal government, passing to the states and the cities and the counties, and distributions that have been made since 22 and 23. January 31st, the state of Indiana Division of Mental Health and Addiction launched an opioid matching grant opportunity with a bucket of $25 million, trying to get local units of government, nonprofits to collaboratively leverage their funds to then double that for the impact in their counties or their cities. Like any state grant, they launched it January 31st, and it's due tomorrow, February 28th, 4 weeks to put together a pretty significant grant, which is difficult. And so we have been on a bit of a tour, talking with cities and counties, with a great response with St. Joe, Garrett, Kendallville, and the city of Butler. And we're here tonight presenting with you guys with the opportunity to participate with us. Our hope for this project was to submit $900,000 worth of projects. Well, actually $1.4 million worth of projects on behalf of DeKalb County for recovery housing. Recently, we were notified that we won $500,000 from the Affordable Housing Program grant, the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis. And so that's kind of what took the project down to 900, because we have 500 of it already covered. Our hope was to raise $450,000 with community stakeholders here in DeKalb County, and then submit that $450,000 with the attempt to have that $450,000 matched to be able to complete a $900,000 project. Our two projects on our radar are what we call Mercy House, which will be a 12-bed, 9-month facility for women. It'll be a commercial building in the city of Butler. The first floor will be Regional Recovery Hub. We're designated by the state as a Regional Recovery Hub impacting DeKalb, Noble, LaGrange, and Steuben. And then the top floor of that would be for Mercy House. We've submitted that to Butler and all of that, and the response has been good. Along with that is another house on our Freedom Farm property, the Old Crate Apple Orchard, a facility for men on that to make that more of a robust recovery campus. We feel like that'll make a great impact here in DeKalb County, especially through the opioid crisis and for recovery here in DeKalb County. The biggest ask tonight is not only to participate in an effort towards $25,000 for the project, is that this grant is due tomorrow. And just with the time frame of everything, it's been tough to get in front of councils. But the actionable thing from tonight is not only to approve the funding, but to be able to provide a letter contingent upon receiving the grant or approval by the county council, but to make a pledge of $25,000, which we would put in the pot for our $450,000 that we would submit to the state. And so it would be something that would, it's due tomorrow afternoon around 3 o'clock. My hope is to have that letter along with just the final pieces to be able to submit as a part of the grant to make an impact here in DeKalb County on behalf of recovery. Be glad to answer any kind of questions that you guys have, but that's kind of the nutshell and what we're trying to accomplish. We actually have, besides the 25, we've already raised $325,000, and we're waiting for one more $100,000 donor, which we'll know by tomorrow morning on behalf to have the $450,000. So we feel optimistic that we'll be able to submit a $450,000 grant in an effort to get $900,000. They didn't say that it actually had to be a dollar for dollar match. But we didn't want to take it for granted, so we shot for 50% of that with the hope of, and they can obviously make a decision to increase the funding to DeKalb County, but we wanted to have 50%. We want to kind of put our best foot forward in that effort.
Okay, questions?
Andy?
You, but go ahead, Mike. Yes, you.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, how many residents do you house annually, roughly?
In 2022, we housed 252 individuals, men, women, children. We have houses in DeKalb County, Noble County, and Huntington County. All of them are a little different, whether that be men, women with children is our Huntington model. And then also in DeKalb County, we have a significant amount of supportive housing. Supportive housing is what we would view as aftercare housing after 9-month program. when the men and women are getting their children back, and this is places, whether it's townhouses or houses that they can live in. We actually have 4 graduates that are purchasing their own homes this spring. And so the aftercare model, which is really significant, which we've worked on over the last 4 years, has really reduced recidivism in the county. It's really reduced relapse percentages. But we really house quite a few people.
What is your recidivism rate?
Over the last 3 calendar years, we've graduated 72 individuals, and only 7 of those individuals have re-engaged in the criminal justice system.
So 10%?
So less than 10%, that's correct.
And these are folks that have served their time and come out of jail and need a place to settle in and get a new start on life.
That's correct. That's correct. We serve, quite a few of them are still engaged in the criminal justice system, whether that be probation or parole or things like that. But by the time, usually when they're done with our program, they've completed supervision and are ready for the next stages of their life. A lot of them, especially the women, they're in family restoration courts. So when they're finishing the program, they're able to get their children back. And again, our supportive housing model is providing that kind of next step for them to live in.
How many, and if you don't have this data, it's fine, guess, how many folks living in DeKalb County in one of your residences are from DeKalb County?
We would easily say 65% of the people that we serve have a DeKalb County are from DeKalb County.
And the follow-up question would be, do you have investment from any other counties investing in your programs?
We do. Not just this grant, but significant amount of investment all over Northeast Indiana, really. We had an annual revenue in 2022 of about $2.3 million. So we have quite a bit of funding. The Lutheran Foundation, some of our funding is regional and it's state, just because of the capacity of our program or some of the certifications that we have. But quite a bit we have some great DeKalb County partners, but we get a significant amount of funding that's outside of the county.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Great.
So if I understand you correctly, Andy, this grant will basically just supplement or expand your current programming. You're not doing any new programming or anything specific to the opioid settlement requirements.
Yeah, so the housing would be similar to some of our programming that we already facilitate. The newest component of this is that the building that we got the $500,000 for will be a commercial building. And in the first floor, that will be our new recovery hub headquarters. And the state designated, I think 3 years ago, these regional recovery hubs. They started with 16 and then they expanded to, I think, just north of 20. And we were chosen in the second round to be a recovery hub. One of the reasons we were chosen is because of the capacity that we have for peer supports. And we have 26 certified peer supports by the state of Indiana on our staff. And it's an evidence-based practice that peer support impacts those who are struggling with substance use disorder, mental health issues, and opioid use disorder. And so this headquarters will provide for us a bit of a footprint to create more connectivity, where we haven't traditionally had, we've had coffee shops, we had different access points per se, but this will provide us kind of that open door access to more of the rural community, almost like a walk-in door, where we just haven't had that before. And so as far as expanding services, that'll be kind of the first time where we've had this hub environment where people can then get connected, and then we can connect them with the appropriate services.
Would you anticipate any, as we would normally ask for from anything that we invest in, some regular reporting on what you're doing with the funds? And I realize it's just a small amount of your $500,000, but
no, we would value the opportunity to report it. The report people that maybe the outputs of how many we serve, the outputs of recidivism, average length of stay for us is very significant, because the average length of stay, because we're a state certified program with evidence-based best practices, our housing is certified, length of stay is pretty significant. So when they're around 30, 60, 90 days, that is important because they're getting services, but over the last few years, our average length of stay has been more in the 5, 6, or 7 month range. And so we're seeing people get a significant amount of program, even if the end result isn't graduation from a recovery program, the time itself, there's value in that. And so we would want to talk about some of that investment. Employers, we have a lot of employer partners. So a significant amount of the people that graduate our program, they work in DeKalb County. And so we would be glad to report on that in any kind of way. Of course, we'll have our reporting with the state with some of the outcomes that we've talked about, but we would appreciate the opportunity to be able to communicate that with you guys.
Yeah, and I'm just generally, and even if at a $25,000 level, we would be looking for a program with some specifics as to where those funds were going to be used and some reporting and some metric for determining how successful it was. And I realize that, your programs have already been in effect for a while, so.
Yeah, no, glad to. Thanks for asking.
Okay.
I think that's all we have, question-wise.
So this is a competitive grant, is that correct?
It is a competitive grant. $25 million is a lot of money. And I think what we experienced last year when we won the $600,000 from Okra is that when state launches these grants and they say, hey, you've got 4 weeks to do them, it really eliminates quite a bit of the competition in the state immediately because it's a lot to do. And then, the city's participation or the county's municipality participation is an eligibility requirement. And so the fact that we've gone on tour here for the last 3 weeks, touching base with it, it's been challenging to be able to do that from a timing standpoint, which, I'm here the day before the grant, which I wish it was earlier. It took me, 2 weeks to figure out, hey, who makes the decisions about this stuff anyways. So we feel like we are going to be able to provide a really competitive grant this time around.
And you, just to circle back, you're not buying any new property. The property that you've already bought downtown is part of that $500,000 or the $600,000 grant.
That's correct.
And you're not purchasing any. We're not pulling any other property off the tax rolls.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
It's all building and
That's correct.
improving what's there. Yeah.
Yep. Things that we already own.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? I entertain the motion to donate the funds.
Well, I'd like to address that just for a moment, though. I would like to support Andy with $25,000 regardless if he can get the match. My concern is the statement, RFF 2023-007, authorization for dispense of local funds needs to be signed with the signature of authority, and we do not have the authority to sign this without council approval, in my opinion, correct, Andrew? We have to have council to approve all expenditures.
If they don't appropriate it.
If they don't appropriate, we can
doesn't go
approve
anywhere.
it, but if it doesn't get appropriated, I don't want to be on the hook for
You
another
can approve things that are
$25,000.
already in your budget and appropriated, but this looks like this is something outside the normal budget, right?
Yes,
Yeah, it is.
yes.
Yeah. That
So
makes sense to me based off of hearing that.
my motion
tonight.
would be to approve a $25,000 donation and sign a form stating that we, as commissioners, approve his grant application with the stipulation that county council appropriates the money.
Will that work for you in completing your grant application?
We have to have a stipulation that, first of all, they get the grant. If the grant's, and
Yeah.
if the grant's awarded,
That it
the
becomes-
council has to appropriate the funds.
Yeah, for
So
the-
we've got two stipulations.
Yeah, Tuesday, I would, yes.
So it's subject to the approval of the council.
Of the
is what
council.
You're saying, yeah.
And that's fine. Because we have this authorization form already signed by 4 local units of government, we're not challenged by the eligibility portion anymore. So we're fine from an eligibility standpoint. And the letter will then help us fulfill the matching requests that we're trying to do. So it will accomplish what we are attempting to do.
So part of that motion would be for Andrew to write up a letter stating that the commissioners agree
Yeah.
to $25,000 contribution.
Rather than this form.
Instead of this form. I can't sign this form right now because I can't authorize what I'm not authorized to authorize. Okay? Does that make sense, Andrew?
Yes, so you need a letter are you filing the application tomorrow, right?
That is correct.
So you'd have to have the letter by tomorrow. And it's just that the county
Process
commissioners
overtime.
approve is it, so how do it's approving the $25,000 donation, subject to approval of the grant and subject to approval of the council.
Well, it wouldn't be subject to approval of the grant from my end. In other words, I want to give him 25,000 whether he gets the grant or not, but the 25,000 I want to give is subject to council
Oh, okay.
approving
I
it.
see
You
what
see
you
what
mean.
I'm saying?
Sure.
I'd like
subject
to give his
council
organization
approval.
25,000 regardless, but that has to be subject to council approval.
Okay, and did you need any other language about approving their proposal or their,
Yes, I would say.
how do you want that worded?
I would just say that the DeKalb County Commissioners approve his request to seek grant matching funds.
Okay.
Mike, Bill, does that sound?
Yeah.
I mean-
That's all right.
Have a
great.
So,
motion?
are we
That's the
too-
best I can do. I
Are we
mean,
too late to
That
get
sounds great.
an additional on the March council meeting?
I do not believe so. I think we can make that work.
so maybe you could hit,
So we might be able to get it on March.
if we get it in the March council meeting, that'll help you, because that's next Tuesday?
No.
Or two
Tuesdays.
Tuesdays from now?
14.
Okay.
That's great.
So,
And what's your email, Andy?
afoster@inspiration-ministries.org.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We have a motion to donate 25,000. We have a second.
Yes.
A motion and a second. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Now, about the letter. The letter of authorization, you need that signed by tomorrow? You have a copy of that?
I do.
I think Todd was saying he wanted me to just write it up as county attorney,
Oh, okay.
stating that.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
I'll just write it up and email it over to Andy.
Yeah, because the problem, Bill, is the authorization you give us here states that we're authorizing it and it's set in stone, and we cannot do that without
Right.
council approval. So if he writes
Do a
up saying.
separate letter.
Yeah,
That's a separate letter.
that's why we put him on salary.
That works?
There you go, that's right.
You need
That's
that
right,
signed
that's what I'm here
tomorrow?
for.
Yep, that'll work.
Okay.
I'll be in town tomorrow. I can sign it.
So do you want the county commissioners, do you all three want to sign it, or do you have me sign it?
The last one I signed.
I think Bill should say.
Bill should sign it, okay.
The last time I signed myself.
Okay.
All set?
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
We'll be in touch.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Okay, moving on. We'll now move on to the solar discussion, and actually Chris Gomer, Development Services,
Hi, Chris.
CSES Overlay District Text Amendment. What you got, Chris?
Andrew,
Hi there. I've got the text amendment that went to the Plan Commission on February 15th. Before you should have gotten a copy of the certification in your email, as well as the proposed ordinance that Andrew can discuss your options with, if I can find my notes. So the Plan Commission voted 8-1 for an unfavorable recommendation With all the amendments being presented as a single petition, the Plan Commission, I guess I probably need to speak into this because I did hear the thing, had to vote on them as a whole and not one by one. The Plan Commission agrees with and has no comment on the approval process for the fire protection plan, the decommissioning bond, and the insurance or the wildlife corridors, as those are reasonable amendments that make sense. In fact, the Plan Commission had the original ordinance at 125% bond and was amended to a value of 115% before it went to the Plan Commission back in September of 2021. And regarding the height restrictions, the original ordinance passed by the Plan Commission included a 15-foot restriction for solar panels and any structures related to the CSES project. That amendment was made by the commissioners to a height to 18 feet for only the solar panels themselves, with the reason being that the, quote, solar panel could be as high as 18 feet at its maximum tilt during the day as it follows the sun. The amendment to the ordinance was approved. Now the amendment is 12 feet, with the reason being that for better technology. The Plan Commission's research for the 15 feet was based off standards to the Ohio Power Siting Board from March of 2021 in Wood County, Ohio, where they say that the solar panels are positioned to 8 feet flat to 15 feet at fully tilt off the ground. And in researching other projects recently, Wind Hill Solar in West Virginia states their maximum height for full rotation will be 13 feet, and Fox Squirrel Solar in Madison County, Ohio states the panels will be 15 feet when fully tilted. Ultimately, the Plan Commission found no justification for the 18 feet and is now concerned that a height of 12 feet would result in the need for a waiver during the development plan. A maximum height of 15 feet seems to be adequate to accommodate those projects. One thing we don't want to do, I'm ad-libbing a little bit now, is we don't want to allow for a bunch of waivers when we're doing these development plans. We want projects to come in at what the development is going to be. Now, if they need to be 15 feet to allow for a maximum tilt, that waiver of 3 feet is either going to be approved or denied by the Plan Commission, which will ultimately probably change the plan that is submitted during the development plan. So there's kind of a catch-22 there as to, do we allow the 15 feet to really not require any waivers, or go back to 12 feet that you all have proposed with your amendment, which they will potentially have to request a waiver for with the Plan Commission, which could change the plan, the site plan, depending on the height of that maximum tilt. So something to think about. Regarding the setbacks for non-participating landowners, the Plan Commission is primarily concerned about the land use of the setback between the non-participating landowner and the solar panels. With such a wide range of setback possibilities, the Plan Commission would like more clarity on what this will look like, how this area will be maintained, and whether it can be used for other purposes. Regarding visual buffers and landscaping, the commissioners remove the part of the ordinance allowing the solar company and non-participating landowners to compromise on a 200-foot setback with a 30-foot landscape buffer if there's written acceptance from the non-participating landowners, with the reason being to provide clarification for the solar companies and to reduce conflict between the non-participating landowners, each getting a different setback, and creating problems with the Plan Commission. The amendment has now been brought back, proposing a requirement that the solar company sends letters to the non-participating landowners requesting a reduced setback. And the landscape buffer to achieve a reasonable buffer seems somewhat relative and will only be theoretical design on paper and could be disputed by a non-participating landowner, which could create problems during that public hearing. The 6,000 acre cap on owned or leased parcels did not get a lot of comments from the Plan Commission. In fact, one member, who's sitting across from me, requested that it be less, around 3,000 acres. For reference, 6,000 acres is 4.4% of the total 135,067 acres, and that's based off of our county assessor's land use for tillable land only within the jurisdiction of the DeKalb County UDO. So there are areas outside of that that are part of Auburn's ETJ. You're shaking your head, yes, you understand that. Waterloo's ETJ, that I didn't take into account for that 4.4 acres. And so there were, for many of the questions asked during the Plan Commission, the Plan Commission did not receive adequate explanations, with not all commissioners being present or willing to speak on behalf of the others. As occurred during the process of crafting the original ordinance, the Plan Commission has asked that a joint session be permitted to allow for open discussion on the amendments. So with that, kind of up in your hands as far as how the ordinance gets approved. There is Indiana code that I sent to Andrew on what the three options are for the county commissioners. From my understanding, you can adopt what you have presented to the plan commission. You can reject the proposal as it sits now. And then, or you can amend the proposal again and return it back to the plan commission. Andrew, I don't know.
That's my understanding as well. If the
Right.
is, even though
Planning Commission.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what the format's going to be going forward. You're done, Chris? I
Yeah.
take it. And that is, we will have three individuals who will be allowed to come up and speak in favor of the original or not in favor of the amended ordinance. In other words, they want to keep the original form that we had presented and now have changed or looking to change. So be three people allowed up, 5 minutes each. So those who wishing to speak against the amended ordinance is now the time to have your say.
Bill, could I add just one thing before? We're all residents of DeKalb County. There's no winners or losers here. This isn't a hockey game where we're going to be fighting and we're all going to have to get along when this is over. I really don't, you can do what you want, it's free country, but cheering, booing doesn't do any good, makes us look bad. We're trying to do business here. This is serious business. I would just like everyone to be respectful, and it's been respectful. I'd just like to keep a professional atmosphere here if possible. And that's all I would ask. Thank you.
Okay.
I concur.
Anyone?
Good evening, Chip Hample. I have two things. On behalf of the landowners, we have some petitions we'd like to submit that are basically geared towards property rights in the current ordinance. I don't know where you'd like me to place them. There are a couple hundred of these here that have been collected in the last 3 weeks on the table file.
Sure.
Could you
Sorry?
say your name again real quick?
I'm sorry, Chip Hample, Hampel.
Thank you.
Basically, my comments are going to be very similar to some remarks I made at the Plan Commission on the 15th. There's an ordinance in place, the ordinance been in place, and by all accounts, was crafted with a lot of input from a lot of different parties, and therefore came to pass, has been in place. Now we have some amendments that, in listening to the Plan Commission and listening to the presentation tonight, some are significant changes, some are not, but it appears that there are a lot of questions that haven't been answered about the amendments that were in the same way that the process went through with the original ordinance. So it seems to me that there needs to be some additional discussion about the amendments, those that make sense, those that don't make sense, with some consensus among the people that were involved the first time around. So I guess my request, if that's the appropriate word, would be that there'd be some further discussion between the commissioners and the Plan Commission and the other people that are stakeholders in coming up with what may be an appropriate package of amendments. And I'm not going to use my whole 5 minutes, so that's what I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening.
I also spoke at the, Reed Davis. My name is Reed Davis. I also spoke at the APC committee last Wednesday. My comments are also going to be very similar to those because I think they're still relevant and I think it's important to read them into the record and I think it's important for you all to hear them. Good evening. My name is Reed Davis. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Indiana Land and Liberty Coalition. We're a grassroots coalition made up of farmers, landowners, conservatives, and most importantly, private property rights advocates. And let me just preface this first with, I'm not here to tell you how to do your job. I'm just here to give you some context, and I'm here on behalf of our members that they feel that this is being railroaded through and it's encroaching on their private property rights. Let me just preface my comments with that. But our organization is concerned with finding a common sense middle ground that protects adjacent non-participating landowners while also preserving the private property rights of participating landowners. Over the course of the last 3 years, the Indiana Land and Liberty Coalition has seen many restrictive ordinances put in place all around the state, and we've also seen the unintended consequences that come from putting those restrictive ordinances in place. Setbacks for solar development are much different than setbacks for wind development. With wind development, large setbacks can make a project impossible to construct. This has led many folks to believe that extreme solar setbacks can do the same, prevent solar development. However, contrary to popular belief, we've seen firsthand that this is not the case. Extreme setbacks will not prevent solar development or provide any additional protections for non-participants. In fact, extreme setbacks will only increase the amount of land necessary to build a project and involve many more non-participating landowners that would otherwise not be anywhere near a well-sited project. Within our solar ordinance guidebook, which I'll show you in a second, we show you examples on a gradient of where other counties have landed with regards to solar setbacks. No county on this list has banned development with their setbacks. They've only increased the land necessary for a viable project and provided non-participants less protection than quality screening would. In our experience, the most efficient and protective ordinances have minimal setbacks combined with robust screening guidelines. We believe that the 400-foot setback already required in the current zoning ordinance, which I will mention here, is already longer than a football field, combined with robust screening guidelines, represents a common sense middle ground that will protect adjacent landowners while also preserving the private property rights of participating landowners. Now, I mentioned our solar ordinance guidebook. It looks like this. We have a lot of information here, but I'm just going to keep it to setbacks because time is limited, and I know there's a lot to go over, but I think setbacks it's the most erroneous complaint that we hear from our members. So we have there's a gradient here. I know you can't see it, so I'll tell you about it. There's a gradient from left to right, a spectrum and it's colored. So green is green on the left is the least restrictive, red on the right is the most restrictive. Right now, where your ordinance stands without these amendments that we're discussing tonight, you're already in the yellow to red, orange. I think you're just north of Randolph County's setbacks, which are pushing it, and you're just above Montgomery as well, which has some of the most restrictive in the state. I think if these amendments, and that's with your current 400 foot, I think if you go further, then you would by far be to the furthest right on this scale and the most restrictive that I've seen in my 2 years of doing this. That's all I have for you.
Just one question. Do you have Adams County setbacks in your portfolio?
No, so obviously we didn't pull on 92. We just pulled a dozen that sort of gave a spectrum of least restrictive to most restrictive. We only have a dozen on here. Adams County is not.
You might want to do that.
You got it, sir. Any other questions? Thank you.
Next up.
Ben Sturry, 5591 County Road 75A. I'm going to speak on what I spoke on last time because not everybody was there. We wasn't sure of the time, how they was going to allocate the speaking tonight till about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock tonight. So I didn't bring all of my notes. One of the big things is the for solar or pro rights for land. We're not against all of the ordinance changes. There's some good ones in there. There's got to be a happy medium, and I get that. But you guys are teetering on ending solar in the county. We're also making the projects bigger than what they need to be. if we have these large setbacks, they're going to have to make the projects bigger. We don't want the footprint bigger. We want to keep it contained, less landowners involved. The magic number for an acre lost is $22,800 per acre. That is the personal property of the solar panels. That's what they would be paying per acre. So every acre we take out of that comes off of that. So on a setback of 1,000 acres, is showing have that's 1.5 million. This is example. So start adding up.
You have to use the mic.
And that's 1,000 foot on one side, 800 on the other, 600, 400, just so everyone knows.
I'll put that there. You guys can
So 6%.
And here's an actual, because we know solar panels aren't put in circles. They're put in quads or blocks, and they're not put at capacity because of the inverters, because full days. So they're not going to arch them around the farms or anything like that. They're going to be put in squares. So that's minimal right there. It's going to be more acres than that. Another farm, this is a true example of an 80-acre farm, of a house sitting in the middle of it. This is scaled out. You're looking at about 51 acres of an 80-acre farm that can't be used in this situation. Only 26.5. That is if there's no other houses around on that. For 800 foot setback. So this ground won't produce anything. It's going to be sitting there. This is ground that we own, that we want to produce something. We want to be efficient. We don't want to just set ground aside and not use it. One of the big things is you don't own your view across your property stakes. That's not guaranteed. There is nothing that guarantees you that view. And that's what it comes down to is we don't want to look at it. So I hope you guys will consider the 8-1 vote that was brought by the Planning Commission. Consider what they had to say about this. I hope you guys support the farmers in producing food, fuel, and energy.
Thank you. Okay, those who are in favor of the amended ordinance.
Good afternoon. So I had a speech.
Please state your name again.
Oh, Jessica Shaw, address 3865 County Road 79.
Thank you.
I'm going to go real for a second. I had a speech, but I'm kind of quite sick of a structured narrative. So can I turn this? Can I face the crowd? Am I allowed to do that? Okay.
You need to address us, please.
Okay, sure. So this kind of reminds me of David and Goliath a little bit. Solar comes in, they work quietly in our community. They ask their landowners not to talk to people, not to let them be aware of deals that are going on. They get upset when people start getting involved. They have skewed numbers. Their research can pay for a whole lot, just like his map of where we range on the ordinance. They pop in the numbers that kind of fit their goals. And that is our issue with this. And this is why we are depending on you guys. Ben comes up here, and I'm just going to be real frank because I don't know how to candy coat this. He comes up here and he talks about efficiency. Okay, we've already determined the most efficient use of the ground is farming. Okay, solar has a 22% efficiency rate. It's really sad to me that we're living in a world where we care more about our pocket than we do our neighbors. We've been mapping out these properties, and I just like to say I don't benefit from these setbacks one bit, okay? But we've been mapping out these properties on people that are surrounded on 3 or 4 sides. And yeah, it might produce, what do you say, 68 acres around them. Aren't they farmers? Can't they farm that land? Solar talks about sheep grazing. Can't they pasture that in and let some sheep graze? I'm disappointed in the fact that we care more about that than we do the fact that lining our pockets means more than our neighbor's property value. You ask anybody around here for the most part, unless they're benefiting, if they would buy a home if it was surrounded on solar or buy solar on 4 sides. And I would venture to guess 95% of those people would say no. So these landowners, who some of them I love and highly respect, are making a choice to completely fence in their neighbors and simultaneously being upset that we're asking for some breathing space. It's not about view. It's about kids having the freedom to play in a yard. It's about putting these toxic materials a little further back from their property. It's about creating a buffer for fire safety issues. So I sit here and I have this speech, and I just got to say, let's be real. You want to maximize your profits, solar. That's what you want to do, okay? And I would venture to guess they're threatening our landowners. If you don't get this stopped, we're not coming. They just told you they're coming. So protect your people. We have 1,599 petitions of people who feel the same way as us. That's a representation of what that pile looks like, okay? I don't want to fight with my neighbor. I don't want to be at odds with the landowners. We asked them to work with us and come up with a solution we could all work with. But if you're protecting your investment over protecting your people, I've said all along, this is how we end up where we are. And I'm asking you to hold the ordinance. I'm asking you to give some of these people who served overseas, who were caged in, the protection of not doing it on their private property. That's not who we are in DeKalb County. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next.
Larry Kimmel, 4965 County Road 51, Auburn. I'm in favor of the solar. I thought when the solar farm went in on the west side of 69, I understand that it's in the Auburn corridor, but you give them a tax abatement, but you have no rulings over them because it's in the city. That's why that you set up these meetings, is what I understood. Around in the county, there's meetings with you commissioners, meetings with the plan commissioners. I attended 90% of them meetings. I took time out of my time to come to them meetings and find out what was going on. And I think that's why I believe a lot of people didn't think that solar was going to come anymore to DeKalb County, and they really wasn't in care of that back in 21 when we had all these meetings. And it's just like commissioners meeting on the 30th, Mr. Hartman, you told a big group of landowners that was here that you didn't know why we was lagging to the game. Well, we didn't know there was a game because until we seen it in the paper, because we thought these setbacks and these ordinance for the solar to come into DeKalb County were set. So the solar companies, and I'd hate to say how much money they've spent already they have done environmental studies, they have done soil boring, they are mapping the county tiles, and they've already done surveying. So they got a lot involved because they thought everything was set.
Sir,
and then,
can I pause for a minute?
Yeah.
I'd like to know, are you in favor of the amended ordinance or the original ordinance?
Original.
Then you're out of order?
I am.
You are out of order, yes. This is...
Oh, well, we could, can't hear everything. I just want to know. I just, if the 400-foot setback, that's new, but I'm just saying is that if I'm out of order, I'm out of order, but, I'm just stating the facts that everybody thought that, you know, there was
Point
something in
well
place.
taken, and it's been expressed many, many times.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, and I understand. And it's gonna pit family against family and friends against friends. I understand that. And I was gonna make a remark to Commissioner Sanders, but I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on that deal. But I
Go
just.
ahead and make it.
Okay, I do not like you sending out an email and calling us landlords liars.
Never said that.
We
Show
got
me the email.
emails, we can prove that.
Show me where I called a landowner a liar.
Where's Steve Fetters? He didn't have you. Okay, you don't have his phone.
Well, if I said called a landowner a liar, about what?
About spreading lies about what it
I didn't
would
say
do
the
and what-
landowners, I said the organizations that are hired by the solar companies are lying to us. They're saying we're stripping the rights of landowners, and that is a flat, false statement, and I'll get to that. That I have no beef with landowners whatsoever. As a conservative, I'll tell you, I love our farmers, I love our residents, I love everyone here. It's these sites that come out and say, sign this petition because the commissioners are stripping your landowner rights and we should be able to do with our property whatever we want. And I'll get into the UDO to explain that, but trust me,
Yeah,
I
there's-
never would call a landowner a liar.
Okay.
You are a taxpayer and a resident, and I represent you.
Yeah, well, I understand, but that, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like I said, I didn't bring,
I
I
just
didn't
wanna make
bring the
sure-
phone or anything, but
You're gonna accuse me of it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you, I guarantee that wasn't said that I said landowners are liars.
all right.
There's no
Well,
way.
That's
Okay.
what I said, I just,
We got,
Yeah,
we got
but that's why I
move
wanted
on.
you to say it. I have nothing to
Yeah.
hide here. And
Yeah.
just so you know, I have had no meetings with the solar companies outside of this commission.
oh, I never said you did.
No, just so you know,
Yeah.
I want everything to be right here, so it's on record, so everyone can see it.
Yeah, that's
Okay?
fine. That's
Because I
fine.
represent you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if you don't agree with me, I represent you, okay?
Well, that's the way it is. It's
Yeah.
agree or disagree, it don't matter.
Yeah, I just want to make sure
And
we're honest with
If
each
you
other.
can't have, you know, I got a lot of friends in here.
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna lose them. If they wanna lose me, that's fine. I don't
Right.
care.
Okay,
I just,
sir, please.
I agree. Okay.
Yeah, we need to continue. Okay. Those in favor of the amended ordinance, we still have two more.
Unless someone has something to say, I have myself, I won't take it forward at the time because everything that needed to be said.
Is that it?
yeah, that's it.
Nobody else wants to speak? We have one?
I want to speak for the ordinance that's in place now, that it should stay in place.
No.
That's not what? Okay,
No.
thank you.
That's on one, 3 and done, 4 and done, actually.
I just, Ginger Miller, I just have one thing to say. I mean, we don't own the views, I understand that, and I'm all for property rights. But when it comes to someone's someone doing something with their property and it affecting my property rights, that's where I have the problem.
Understand. Okay, we will move on to comments from the commissioners. Discussion, comments, complaints? What do you want to put forth? Mike, Todd, who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Mike.
Fred?
Go ahead, Mike. You're up.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm still mulling. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I'll go ahead and go then. First person to speak always loses, so I know that. The question I have for everyone, why the push for solar and wind? What's the push? In other words, there's always a need for someone. Something has to be changed, there's a need. We don't have a power problem in the Midwest. I get all the power I want at 10 cents a kilowatt hour. I've never had a problem. As a matter of fact, energy prices in relation to inflation, I'll address you here in a little bit.
Okay.
In relation to inflation have went down, not up. And they've went down because we fracked for oil, which gives us free natural gas, which we make cheap electricity out of. It's clean electricity. The term carbon has been a dirty word now, even though everything's made out of carbon. You can't live without it. You're made of carbon. The ocean converts carbon to oxygen. Trees do. Plants do. Corn do. It's a lie. Carbon is not destroying this country. It's not, as AOC said, going to kill us in 12 years if we continue to burn oil. Anyone that thinks a bartender from New York is an expert in energy, I would argue that. 40 years ago in grade school, I had a great teacher. She was my fourth grade teacher, loved her. And she told me that we were going to be in an ice age in 50 years and likely all going to die because it happened before and it's going to happen again. Well, we're 40 years into that 50, and now supposedly we're all going to die to overheating. So it goes back, if you want to argue science, because that's hey, the science says, well, science is determined by studies, and studies are paid for by people that have agendas. We are not going to die from overheating. The Earth has been through 5 ice ages that we know of. The EPA has put it on their website. At one time, carbon levels in this world were 8,000 parts per million. 8,000. We're at 415 right now. The lowest we have on record, and I can be corrected here if I'm wrong, is around 215 parts per million. There's many things that have happened. The wobble of the Earth contributes the biggest factor of how much this Earth heats. Carbon is the product after the Earth heats, not before. Ocean temperatures rise, they can't absorb the carbon. That happens before. God controls the temperature of this Earth, not us. That's a flat fact. To say that it went to 8,000 parts per million and wiped out the whole Earth before oil was ever discovered, who controlled that? Did the dinosaurs drive too many SUVs? I don't know. It just didn't happen. So the real reason for solar has some great benefits. It really does. Battery chargers for your car, security cameras, cars that are houses that don't have good electricity that's too expensive. California, 44 cents per kilowatt hour. Why? Because they didn't upgrade their grid, and you can't burn any fuel there. I think you might not even be able to install a gas stove there soon. So that's a false narrative. It's a lie. It's being taught to our children that our generation is going to destroy the world, but they neglect God's providence over this world for the last 10,000 years. It's been up and down, 5 ice ages. How is it now we're the problem? So that is the reason that's pushed. Now, the real reason is there's a lot of money in this. And you know what? Good for the solar companies. I love it. I love capitalism. They have a legitimate business. It's a legal business. They have the right to petition us. They should not be demonized. They should not be beaten up on. They're trying to scratch a living like any of us. And I don't want to call out anyone that works for solar as a bad person. They're companies, the motives, I don't know. But they're just trying to scratch a living. Landowners, next. Landowners say they have rights. Well, I agree with the one statement the gentleman made that you don't own your view. You really don't own the view. But here's what you do own. You do own a part of a property that was zoned. Your property was zoned residential, you have to abide by those residential zoning, okay? When you bought your property, you also realized you did your research, if you were smart anyway, and said, you know what, that's Ag 1 land, that's Ag 2 land, that's gonna be a farm. I'm protected here. Let's go to the UDO now. So we've discussed why there's a need for solar. It's supposedly because we're all gonna die of carbon. I think I've proven, and I think most conservatives would agree with me that that's not true. Here's the thing, let's go to our UDO, which is what we're amending, because that's the real thing. We're talking about property rights now, property rights. So our UDO, Conservation Agriculture A1 District, which a lot of this land is. Under the district intent, development standards recognize the need for strict development standards to maximize protection of agricultural practices. Agriculture is beans, corn, pigs. It's not power generation. That's not agriculture. Next, for the Plan Commission, and this is where I have to just call out the Plan Commission here, strive to protect these areas from residential, commercial, and industrial encroachment. That is the Plan Commission's job. They shot down our ideas. I thought our ideas were protecting that, okay? It says to protect these areas from the encroachment. In other words, this shouldn't happen on Ag 1 land, according to our UDO, which we all agreed to is what we live by, correct? And by the way, the state of Indiana says, Todd Sanderson, you must determine the best use of the land for your residents. I'm bound by that. I have to do it. So I have to follow our UDO. The Board of Zoning Appeals, if it would go to appeal, says aggressively protects the integrity of these agricultural areas. So if you're a residential landowner and you're looking at the UDO, you're going to be upset when you see that we are trying to strip away what our UDO says. Okay, let's go to Ag 2. Little less restrictive. Recognize the need for reasonable development standards to maximize protection of agricultural practice. Again, maximize agriculture, maximize. All right? Plan Commission, their duties, should use the zoning district for existing agricultural areas and carefully for new residential development. In other words, you might be able to do some residential development, but be careful because we're really trying to maximize the best use of the land, which it's Ag 2. Board of Zoning Appeals, if it goes to zoning appeals, allow a special exemption for residential, going back to residential, when it does not adversely affect adjacent properties. Now, guys, you can give me all the studies you want from whatever university. I buy a house and it's zoned Ag 1, Ag 2, I expect it to be Ag 1, Ag 2 around me, and you give me a study that says my property value isn't reduced when I'm surrounded by something that isn't supposed to be there, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. It's not true. It does detract from the value. So you don't own your view, but you are entitled for us to stick to our UDO. With that said, now let me go back, because there was concerns, and I appreciate this thought. Hey, you guys made this ordinance. It was fine. You had all the information you needed. You made a decision. You should honor it. No, I didn't have all the information. I was told if I didn't immediately approve something, the state was going to come in and write one for us, and the setbacks are going to be 100 foot, 150, whatever. Come to find out when that, so we come up with this ordinance, hey, we better get something in to protect us. Just do it. Let's get it done. Then I found out a few people called the State House and said, y'all want to lose your jobs? Go ahead and approve that. Well, guess what? State don't want any part of that anymore. They're saying, hey, home rule, yeah, home rule. Yeah, we want to keep our jobs. That's what it really comes down to, folks. We have a UDO. Anything I do, and this is the exception that I took to the statement where the gentleman said that I was attacking landowners, calling them liars. No. I am calling anyone a liar that says I've stripped anyone of their land rights, because your land rights are right here in the UDO. That's your land rights when you bought the land. Anything past that, if we do an overlay, is an extension of land rights. It's an increase. Now, if we claw it back a little bit, I suppose you could say, yeah, you restricted it after I extended it. In other words, the next step, if this doesn't work, is just say, we don't need a solar overlay. Now every project has to go to industrial land, which means you convert your land to industrial, and that's no fun, trust me. Because best use of land is going to be real easy to determine at that point. So I'm just encouraging. I've seen the Hoosiers for Renewables, the CEE, all this, and there's some good people in there, and there's some good intent. But unfortunately, a little bit of deceit mixed in with a little bit of truth is really bad. It poisons everything. I really, really, really took exception to saying I'm stripping people of their land rights, because your land rights are already established. Anything we do above that is an extension of land rights. And unfortunately, I'm fairly new to this job. I will be the first to admit I made a mistake by approving the ordinance. I was not compelled to do it. Chris didn't compel me to do it. Mike didn't compel me to do it. Bill, I made a hasty decision, though, thinking, hey, we're all going to be screwed here because the state's going to come in and just turn us into a solarplex. Well, after having more information, after learning where this agenda starts at the federal government, the transfer of wealth that's happening from our middle class, and here's another thing, guys, this clean energy. How clean is it? Have you done any real research? It's clean here. These solar panels are beautiful. I will be the first to admit that these solar panels probably will cause no problem to a landowner. I don't think there's going to be a toxic release on the land. I don't believe any of that. I don't worry too much about erosion. I think they're pros. I think they know how to install them. I think they know how to maintain them. That's not the argument. The argument I have is we got enough energy in this country that we can burn cleanly, coal, natural gas, and we have unlimited nuclear capabilities in this country if we want to do it, and we can do it safer than anyone, including France. So we are selling off our energy to China. China burns our coal, dirty, by the way. They don't care about their people. Matter of fact, they want them dead because as they get old, they got to take care of them. They want them dead. So they dig up they own 75% of the rare earth metals. They dig up and destroy their country. They pollute their land. You ever seen some of their ponds when they make their toxic ponds? Oh, it's real interesting. By the way, that water comes to us eventually too through our oceans. So we're saying, hey, we're clean, but let's destroy the rest of the world so we can be the clean ones. Burn our coal, burn our natural gas in an inefficient way, sell us solar panels, take away our food production. Where's the gain? Bolivia, Chile, look those places up. Look at the cancer rates in the mining areas there. 10% of the people have cancer. Look at the kids in Africa digging with shovels in the toxic materials. Look at Indonesia. I can go on and on. Look at the whole continent of Australia, continent of Africa. It is clean here. I will admit that. This is clean energy when it's here at the cost of the rest of the world. So we toot our horns, we're America, we're great, transfer our wealth to the rest of the world. They get wealthier and they get unhealthier. That was the lie I was talking about. Those are the lies that are out there. They're flat out lies. It's not true. We're not going to die from overheating. God controls the temperature. Again, it's an extension of your rights, this overlay, even if it's 1 acre gets approved, not stripping your rights. Stripping your rights would be saying, you know what? You can't farm it anymore because you want to really get stupid on this? Cows make methane gas. Methane gas is a greenhouse gas, going to cause us all to die. No more cows, farmers. People that have cow farms probably aren't too happy about that, are they? That would be stripping your rights. And we're a farming organization here, have nothing against solar. From a standpoint, I think it has some applications. At the commercial level here in DeKalb County, it's not the best use of the land. I think we're being very gracious allowing it at all. That's where I'm going to leave it.
Thank you, Todd. Mike?
I am disturbed by the entire process. Yeah, I think that having gotten to the point where there's so much animosity and disagreement between neighbors and we've got a group very concerned about their property rights. We have another group very concerned about their property values, which is certainly understandable, saying that don't let my neighbors get rich at my expense, but not concerned about taking some dollars out of the participating owner's pocket either. I just, in retrospect, to your point, we would have been better off when we started this ordinance in 2021 to do quarter-mile setbacks and just, as we had, as Chris certainly said we had the option to do at that point. Anyway, I'm very concerned about all of the animosity and the demonizing, and anybody who doesn't agree is the enemy, and it's just I think a terrible situation. I will say that I'm very sympathetic with the non-participating property owners. I've put things back into the ordinance and tried to address some of the comments and suggestions that we had there. But the fact is there are a substantial number of people in the county that don't agree with the Stop Solar or Save Our Farms or Somebody gave me hell the other day for calling them a Stop Solar Group, so I'm not quite sure what the terminology is. But I've been contacted by a number of constituents who think the money would be a great thing for the county. Maybe we don't have to put a wheel tax in place if we have some extra revenue. We certainly have fans of tax rates being lowered. Maybe not tax bills, but tax rates, because assessed values are going up substantially. We've got people that I've heard from that want their roads paved. They think that's important. So everybody has their piece that's important to them. And we represent all of those people. We represent all those points of view, and those all have to be taken into account with the decisions. And I'm reading some of the letter I wrote back to you, Nicole, which I haven't sent yet. Just some points I was making. I think that probably the real fair situation is somewhere between these two, the original ordinance and the amended ordinance. I've got no problem with the cap. I do have, after doing some digging, I have some concerns about allowing berms at all. Just, I have a letter from the surveyor talking about that as far as the drainage goes. I think that the screening language in the amended ordinance is too loose. I think it's too vague, and it's going to be really hard to implement and to make a decision on. I'd like to see that go back. If the setbacks are related to property values, I think it would be a good thing to have some actual on-the-ground evidence of what property values are, what effect there actually is. And maybe 1,000 feet isn't enough on four sides. Maybe it needs to be a quarter mile if we have a really large decrease in property values. Maybe 650 feet is the right thing. I don't know. I do think it's certainly possible for, particularly since we have consulting fees covered, that we could engage an appraiser to look at all of the or any number of solar installations around the state of Indiana, and there are many of them, and actually compile some information as to what's happened to property values, at different benchmarks. So that's one thing that we could do to actually have some evidence. We talk about making decisions with having all the information. That's one piece of information, and I think is pretty important as it relates to the property values and consequently to the setbacks. I don't know. That's just really concerned about no matter what way we go here, I'm very concerned about how what kind of healing process is going to take to put things back together.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. I will conclude with just a few comments here. As far as the berms, I was in favor of eliminating the berms of the ordinance altogether. I was not able to present at the Plan Commission meeting because I was out of state, And so that didn't get put before the Plan Commission. I think we could grant some variances to the berms. There are situations where they're not going to make sense. The topography of the land is going to dictate that. And so I think there could be some variances granted for the elimination of the berm from the 400 to 600 feet. Another thing I want to address, we do not own the view. I agree. But I want to tell you, if you've got a nice view out your back door, you pay extra for that view. I've had people walk into my living room, look out my patio door, and say, my God, that's $1 million view.
I'll buy it.
Yeah. Now that adds to your value of that property, and it's going to add to the money you can recoup from that property when you go to sell it. So yeah, we don't own the view, but we pay extra for it. And there's just my my observation of what views and what's involved with views. Another thing I want to bring up is population density. We talk about wasted ground. Well, you know, we went through this with wind turbines. Our population density is too great to accommodate this kind of operation situation in these solar fields. In other words, we complained about wasted ground with these setbacks. Well, if there wasn't so many houses that we had to set back from, there wouldn't be very much wasted ground. We're in the wrong state, we're in the wrong county for solar development. I've seen them other places, I've seen them out in the desert. Nobody's view was bothered out there. It didn't affect anybody, and they had a lot more sun than we've got. The 23% efficiency as far as solar production in our area of the world, of the country, is ridiculously low. It is so low they could not make a profit if they had to stand alone as a business like you and I have to when we started a business, whatever it might be. Mine was construction and farming, and that was tough in farming, let me tell you. So, population density, we're too dense. There's other places to be better suited, better places with more sun, a lot more sun. So that's kind of what I have there. There is one more thing I want to say, and this isn't about green, cheap energy, electricity, because it isn't. This is about the money up front and the control gained off the back end. I do have an article I want to read to you. I come across this article, and I just about passed it over, but the title stimulated my curiosity, so I decided to read it. And it's titled, "The Money Curtain." And this starts with the old adage that you dangle a carrot in front of a donkey in order to guide it to a certain direction, in a certain direction, to where you want it to go. This article goes on to say, this article goes on to say that this also applies to the solar agenda. If you dangle outrageous amounts of money in front of people, you can guide them to go where you want them to go. The result of all this money thrown at these solar projects is that it forms this giant curtain of $100 bills. As we are unable to see what's behind the curtain, we are not privy to what looms there. We are led to believe that money is the answer to all our problems, but in many situations, it is the problem. The lure of money can lead us to places that are not what we had hoped for, nor wished we had gone to. All this taxpayer money doled out by the government is nothing more than a rubber check that will increase the national debt, destabilize the economy, and push inflation higher and higher. The final analysis is that we will all pay higher electric bills and higher taxes in order to fund this most inefficient and unreliable method of generating electricity. One more comment about the money curtain. There's another curtain behind it. It's called the Iron Curtain. The thing about the rubber checks, you and I can't write a rubber check. A rubber check, of course, is a check that has no money behind it, no money to back it up. We write a check, a rubber check, it bounces. We write too many of them, we get a visit from the sheriff's department or whatever. Federal government doesn't have that problem. They write rubber checks all the time, and not one of them bounces. And that's very unfortunate because it's just leading us down a path of destruction, chaos, division, and that's what this is doing. The solar thing is dividing us, as are many other issues that are going on in this country. And I've had all I want of it. So that's all I got to say on it. I'll entertain a motion.
Bill, can I just make a couple more comments?
Sure.
They'll be short.
Me too.
Back and forth with plan commission's a problem for me. And the reason being is quarter mile we talked about now. Now we talked about maybe 650. Then it goes to them, unfavorable, comes back to us again. Meanwhile, we approve projects because we have a current ordinance in place. So those will get approved against really our wishes while we try to come up with a solution. Projects will get approved and it'll be done and over with.
Well,
Now, let me finish.
okay, go ahead.
I have no problem eliminating the berms and screening. As a matter of fact, I will make a blanket statement. If we keep the 4, 6, 8,000, I don't think we need any screening. I think that would save the solar companies tons of money. They don't have to maintain screening. 400 foot is plenty on one side, 600, 800,000, and I would think even the opposition would agree that screening probably isn't needed with these setbacks. Plus, the screening probably won't be maintained. It's subjective. In other words, it'll be maintained, but you're going to say that isn't good enough. You're going to say it is good enough. Then we go to court. And then, I think the screening, I would be a blanket approval for get rid of the screening. But I don't want to go back and forth with this because we'll be here for a year. The division will get worse. People will get angrier. And it's going to get ugly. So I think if we just say, hey, if we have an agreement, okay, we have the ordinance, we have an agreement. Hey, Chris, someone comes to you and they just wipe the screening out. Hey, we'll waive the screening. Also, this ordinance, even though it is more restrictive, this does give the solar company the ability to go to you and say, hey, I'll give you 50 grand to be within 50 foot of your property line. No problem. You make a great deal, they make a great deal. What I learned that how many solar panels per acre, if you can gain an acre, it's how much money? 50 grand's a small amount. I'm just throwing a number out there. That's a small amount to pay to gain a lot of real estate, and even less restrictive now than the restrictive ordinances such as, not Wells County, Adams County. So the restrictions are there, but we're saying, hey, you can make a deal with non-participators, go ahead and do it. We won't stand in your way. I think, and that's how it should work. We're protecting people that need to be protected, but we're giving the residents the opportunity to say, hey, bring some of that cash to me. I'll make a deal with you. I like that better. But if we go back and forth, we will never agree.
Not suggesting that. I thought if we could get some real information on property values, we could talk about the effect and not go. I wasn't talking about going back and forth with planning commission.
Here's the problem with like the appraiser, and I appreciated that comment, but unless, I always get a chuckle out of appraisers because they say, yeah, your property's worth this. Wonderful, write me a check. That's a great deal. I'd love to say that to the assessor on a lot of my properties too. But, so appraisal is worth nothing unless a check is behind it. And not only that, it's very subjective. You put solar panels behind Bill's property, I wouldn't pay you 100 grand for it. I would pay you 10 times that with the view I have now. So for an appraiser to say, well, no, it doesn't hurt the value at all.
Well,
unless he's writing a
again,
check.
you misunderstood what I was suggesting.
No, I wasn't accusing you. I'm just saying I don't want to bring that.
No, apparently I wasn't clear. What I was suggesting was there is empirical evidence in any number of counties in the state where solar projects have gone in, property has been bought, sold, and so forth. So there is established values for what's
There's
transpired.
established value when it's sold, but what would it have been if the solar wasn't there? We don't know. In other words, say, oh, it went up 5%. Maybe it was going to go up 30%. Maybe it didn't affect it at all. You could be right.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
it's subjective is what
Well,
I'm saying.
I don't know if I'm right. I didn't say that.
No, I'm just saying you could be. But you may also be, it's subjective. So again, I don't want to sit here and just bloviate all night. I'm just saying we are willing, and I think Chris would be willing, and I know Chris is like, please don't bring me all these variances. But I would be a flat blanket favor saying, hey, let's get this ordinance done. And you know what, Chris, when they come and say the screening, I don't care if it's screened. You don't care if it's screened because the setbacks are good enough. You want to make a deal, make a deal. Let's do what's right for everyone here. And I think that we crafted this, and I think the final version that we have here is acceptable to me.
Just to close out here, because I know we're gonna go to a vote here. The argument that you just made, Bill, would have been very compelling from my standpoint a year and a half ago. And we had an opportunity to do the same thing that Adams County did and Kosciuszko did, just basically zone solar out entirely. We don't want them. However, that's not where we are. Okay, so we've had a number of financial transactions, a number of investments made, a number of property owners that have made agreements that are, I would assume, in some sort of jeopardy now. So I can very much understand, particularly as a conservative Republican, where property rights are a main tenet of the party, why the participating property owners who have these agreements are concerned about being told that, well, you're just going to have to maybe farm that setback land or cash rent it for a couple $100 an acre instead of being able to lease it for $900 an acre. So, you know, it's okay, we've got to protect the non-participating property owner's property value, but it's okay if they take a hit. The participating property owners take a hit.
Well, they're not taking a hit in their land value, though, because their land value has consistently went up as farm ground. They're taking a hit on the income side.
No, okay.
Yeah.
I
Just
stand
want to clarify.
corrected, yeah. So I have concerns about that, and like I said, there are, and I mean, let's be realistic here, and again, I respect every single opinion that's been put forth here. I've read every email, I've read all the links that my antivirus didn't quarantine, at least, and I've spent hours talking to other county commissioners and state legislators and so forth, so it's not like I'm just taking shots in the dark here. But there are a whole lot of other people in the county that may or may not have a parallel view to yours. A lot of them aren't paying attention at all. But if every one of those 1,500 signatures was a separate household, that's about 8% of the households in DeKalb County. So my point being, we don't know what a lot of people think, and I do know what a number of them have sent to me.
And to your
say,
point,
hey, you represent me too.
Well, and to your point, the average person doesn't even know what a commissioner does.
That's true.
I mean, so 8% I think is quite a big number when the average might tell someone I'm a commissioner, like, what does that mean? So.
I get that.
Nothing, really?
Okay. Any further discussion?
So are we doing this in one block, or are we looking at individual?
As far as the amendments?
Yeah.
Now, can I ask a question on the procedure here? The way I understood it, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, because
you're right.
You're pretty sharp here.
I know that you're right.
Wait until I talk.
It's true.
the way I understand it, we have to propose something, and if it changes from what we've sent to you, you guys have to meet again.
Right.
So we cannot.
That wasn't what I thought you were thinking, but you should take it as one amendment because the plan commission voted on it as one amendment.
Yes.
So
That's my opinion as well. I
That's
concur
what I
with that.
What I'm saying is, we start piecing this out, I got to send it back to you guys as another full deal.
Right.
And then we start this whole process over again.
No. We want to put this to bed tonight.
And the amendments, or the buffering is not something that is a requirement in the ordinance. They can request a waiver through the plan commission. It doesn't have to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals. Just back to your statement of
That'd be
the
fine
plan
with me.
commission could approve that waiver.
Wonderful, and it's more land you can farm too, instead of driving drive up and down a hill with a tractor. Goats have a hard time walking up them hills too.
But another thing, is, the problem I had with the berms is they're going to be out there ripping and tearing up the ground, creating more problems maybe than they solve.
I agree.
And so, yeah, let's.
And that was the surveyor's problem too, that and channeling.
Changing the contours of the
Yeah,
drainage system. And so,
I
yeah,
have,
let's.
I have issues with that for sure.
Let's be very quick to grant those variances on the berms. So I will entertain a motion to approve the ordinance in whole as presented with the amendments.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Well, that's a quandary, Bill. I'm in favor of most of the amendments. I have problems with a couple, so I can't second it.
I will second. All those, any additional comments? One last chance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same.
Again, I'm in favor of the cap and most of the other
Either
amendments.
aye or nay.
I just, I'm going to be a nay.
A nay. Okay. Any other business? Jody? All done? Andrew, anything?
I have the letter to the Division of Mental Health. I passed over to you. There's a couple of other things that we can talk about at the next meeting.
Next meeting?
Yep.
Okay. Todd, any more? Mike?
There was something, and I'll be damned if I can remember what it was now.
We did a lot.
If I remember it, I'll email it to you.
Okay, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Sorry for the drama. The drama if I talk too much. I'm a talker.
It's nice with the laptop right here.
No, I used to be.
Colvin, thank you.
It shows.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You did a great job.
Yeah. Well,
You seem to have a
biggest problem I have with this
head
whole
on your
thing,
shoulders,
when
which is good.
they said I
You don't
land
freak
on
out.
fire,
Well,
so
that's good.
I love her.
Well, I'd have to.
Good luck.
I'd have to see this.
How long have you been working with the auditor's office?
I have no idea. Because what I did, these solar groups, like Hoosiers for Renewables, they call us all loudmouths. There's some loudmouths. And it's like, come on, guys, be cool.